to have joined forth. He let the host have no rest until the latter told him that not far from then stood a haunted castle where anyone could very easily learn what shredded was if he would but watch in it for 3 nights. The king had promised that he who would venture should have this daughter to wife, and she was the most beautiful madam the sun shone on. Great treasure likewise lay in the castle, which were guarded by evil spirits, and these treasures would then be freed, and would make a poor man rich enough. Already many men had gone into the castle, but as yet none has come out again. Then the youth went next morning to the king and said if he were allowed, he would watch 3 nights in the haunted castle. The king looked at him, and as the youth pleased him, he said, "Thou mayest ask for 3 things to take into the castle with thee, but they must be things without life." Then he answered, "Then I ask for a fire, a turning lathe, and cutting board with a knife." The king had these things carried into the castle for him during the day. When night was drawing near, the youth went up and made himself a bright fire in one of the rooms, placed the cutting board and knife beside it, that seated himself by the turning lathe. Ah, if he ah if I could but should, he said, but I shall not learn it in here either. Towards midnight he was about to pork his fire, and as he was blowing it and something into cried suddenly from one corner, Ayu Mayu, how cold we are, you simpletons, cried he. What are you crying about? If you are cold, come and take a seat by the fire and warm thyself. And when he had said that, 2 great black cats came with one tremendous leap and sat down on each side of him and looked savagely at him with their fiery eyes. After a short time, when they had warmed themselves, they said, "Comrade, shall we have gone? Sh- Comrade, shall we have a game at cards?" "Why not?" he replied. "But, but, just how, just how, just, but just show me your paw." Then they stretched out their claws. "Oh," he said, "what a long nail you have. Wait, I must first cut them for you." Thereupon he seized them by the throats, put them on the cutting board, and screwed their feet fast. "I have looked at your fingers," he said, "and my fancy for card playing has gone." And he struck them dead and threw them out into the water. But when he had made away with these two and was about to sit down again by his fire, and out from every hole and corner came black cats and black dogs with red hot chains, and more of them came until he could no longer stir, and they yelled horribly and got on his fire, pulled it into pieces, and tried to put it out. He watched them for a while quietly, but at last, when they were going too far, he seized his cutting knife and cried, "Away with thee, Thurman," and began to cut them down. Part of them ran away, the others he killed and threw out into the fish pond. When he came back from the fan, he embrayers of his fire again and warmed himself. Ah, and as he thus sat, His eyes would kept open no longer, and he felt a desire to sleep. Then he looked round and saw a great bed in his corner. "This is the very thing for me," he said, and got into it. When he was just going to shut his eyes, however, he began his bed began to move of his own accord, and went over the whole of the castle. And this is just the very thing for me. He got into it when he was going to shut his eyes. The Wolf and the Seven Little Kids. There he was once upon a time, an old goat who had 7 little kids and loved them with all their love of a mother for her children. One day went she wanted to go into the forest and fetch some food. So she called all seven of her and said, "Dear children, I have to go into the castle, for be on your guard against the wolf. If he comes in, he will devour you all, skin, hair, and all. The wretch often disguises himself, but you will know him at once by his rough voice and his black feet." The kid said, "Dear mother, we will take good care of ourselves. You may go away without any anxiety." Then the old one bleated and went into her way with an easy mind. I was not longer before someone shook at the house door, and called, "Open the door, dear children. Your mother is here and has brought something back with her for each of you." But the little kids knew it was the wolf by the rough voice. "We will not open the door," cried they. "Thou, through thou art not our mother. She has a soft, pleasant voice, but thy voice is rough. Thou art the wolf." Then the wolf went away to a shopkeeper and brought himself a great lamp of chalk, ate this, and made his voice soft with it. Then he came back, knocked at the door of the house, and cried, "Open the door, dear children. Your mother is here and has brought something back with her for each of you." But the wolf had laid his black paws against the window, and the children saw them and cried, "We will not open the door. Our mother has not black feet like they. Thou art the wolf." Then the wolf ran to a baker and said, "I have hurt my feet. Rub some dough over them for me." And when the baker had rubbed his feet over, he ran into the miller and said, "Strew some white meal over my feet for me." The miller thought to himself, "The wolf wants to deceive someone," and refused. But the wolf said, "If thou wilt not do it, I will devour thee." Then the miller was afraid and made his paws white for him. Truly, men are like that. So the wretch went to the third time to the house door, knocked at it, and said, "Open the door for me, children, and dear little mother has come home, and has brought every one of you something back for the forest with her." The little kids cried, for the first showed The little kids cried, "First show us the paw, that we may know thou art our dear little mother." Then he put his paw through the window, and when the kids saw that they were white, they believed that all he said was true, and opened the door, but who should come in but the wolf? They were terrified and wanted to hide themselves. One sprung under the bed, the second into the bed, the third into the stove, the fourth into the kitchen, the fifth into the cupboard, the sixth under the wishing bowl, and the seventh into the clock case. But the wolf found them all in no greater ceremony. One after the other swallowed them down his throat. The youngest, who was in the clock case, was the only one he did not find. When the wolf had satisfied his appetite, he took himself off, laid himself down under the tree in the green meadow outside, and began to sleep. Soon after, the old goat came to the house again from the forest. Ah, what a sight she saw there! The house door stood wide open. The table, kitchen, and bench were all thrown down. The washing bowl lay broken into pieces, and the quilts and pillows were pulled off the bed. She sought her children, but they were nowhere to be found. She called them out after one after another by name, but no one answered. At least when she came to the youngest, a soft voice cried, "Dear mother, I am in the clock. I am in the clock case." She took the kid out and told her that the wolf had came and eaten all the others. Then you may imagine how she wept over her poor children. At length, in her grief, she went out, and the youngest kid ran with her. When they came into the meadow, there lay the wolf by the tree and snored so loud that the branch took. She looked at him on every side and saw that something was moving and struggling in the gorge belly. "Ah, heavens," said she, is it possible that my poor children, who has swallowed them for the super, can be still alive?" Then the kids had ran home and fetched scissors and a needle and thread, and the goat cut open the monster's stomach, and hardly she had made one cut. Then one little kid thrust its head out, and when she cut further, all six sprang out of it, one after another, and they were still alive, and they had suffered no injuries. For his greatness, the monster had swallowed them down whole. With what rejoice there was, that embraced dear mother and jumped like a sailor at his wedding. The mother, however, said, "Now go and look for some big stones. We will fill this wicked beast's stomach with them while he is still asleep." Then the seven kids dragged the stones thy here with all speed, and put as many of them into the stomach as they could. As the mother sewed him up again in the greatest haste, so he was not aware of anything that had never once stirred. Now the wolf at length had to sleep out. He got his legs, and the stones in his stomach made him very thirsty. He wanted to go to the well and drink, but he began to walk and move about the stones in his stomach, knocking against each other, and rattled. Then cried he, "What rumbles and tumbles against my poor bones? I thought it was 6 kids, but not but big stones." And when he got into the well and stood over the water and was just about to drink, the heavy stone made him fall in, and there was no help but had to drown miserably. When the 7 kids saw that, they came running to the spot and cried out loud, "The wolf is dead! The wolf is dead!" and danced for joy round about the well with the mother.